What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Nintendo Land. We are still talking about 2026 and what are Nintendo's big plans going to be for this year. And today we're talking about what the big games are going to be. This isn't just a 2026 talk for Nintendo. We're talking about what the massive, huge titles are going to be for Nintendo in this year. We know a lot about this year already, but I still think there's going to be at least a couple surprises still in store for us. And that's what we're here to talk about. What are going to be the massive reveals for this year. Now, before we dive into that, I want to say thank you so much. You guys have been showing unbelievable support. We have reached our goal of 380,000 subscribers, and we're still trying to reach our big goal of 400K. You guys can make that happen. Over 400 of you subscribed for the last 2 days each, which is insane. Let's see how many we can get to subscribe from this video alone. Let's try to reach our short goal of 390 and our big goal of 400K. Thank you so much, and let's dive into what Nintendo's huge games are going to be in 2026. So with each game that I talk about here, I'll also be giving a percentage of how likely I think it is to happen, but I do want to make a note that I will not be talking about Pokemon here. I think with all the leaks and everything, we know that Gen 10 is coming this holiday season, and Pokemon's always there in the holidays, so it's not really something that I want to talk about too much. I'm not even a huge Pokemon fan, but let's talk about the two things that we do know of so far, which are probably going to be a little bit more in those bigger game categories. First off, we have Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. Now, I have not started the series yet. I do plan on starting Fire Emblem Three Houses this year for my first time, so I don't really have too much to say about this one, but Fire Emblem has never been a franchise that's going to be listed as a massive title for the year. Probably big for Fire Emblem fans, but with Fire Emblem Three Houses being the most sales in its series at 4.1 million, it's still not in those numbers to be considered a massive title for the year, in my opinion. So I do think it's slowly getting out of that niche category, but not big enough to be considered a massive title yet. And the one other game that we know about this year is Splatoon Raiders. Yes, it is a spin-off, but it's a single-player adventure game spin-off. Now, we don't know much about it right now, so I'm trying not to get too excited, but man, I'm really excited for this one. I think this one is going to be pretty massive, and I could see it being on the scale of even Donkey Kong Bonanza, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, or maybe even along the heights of Luigi's Mansion 3. The sales have been obviously really good for the Splatoon series, 4.9 million on the Wii U, 13.6 million for the second game, and 11.9 million for the third. So having a spin-off that's single player focused on a 3D action adventure game could be absolutely massive for Nintendo this year. And when I say people are sleeping on this game, it's mostly because I see comments saying, dude, this is just a, spin-off. It's not going to be anything exciting. I see those comments so much, and I just don't understand. Like, a 3D action adventure game with Splatoon that's single player based just sounds like a dream come true. So I'm betting on this being one of the massive games for this year. All right, now that brings us into what we don't know, the big surprises. Now, we know a lot of this year already, so I don't think there's going to be too many surprises. I'm thinking like one or two big games that we don't know about. But the first one I have here is, of course, 3D Mario. Now, it's back and forth with the community if this is going to happen. A lot of people think no, because we just got Donkey Kong Bonanza. But I will continue to fight to say that Donkey Kong Bonanza was made up of a part of the Odyssey team, where the other part in Koizumi, the main producer of these Mario games, has not been featured or credited on Donkey Kong Bonanza because he's working on this next 3D Mario with another team in mind, or at least another half of that Odyssey team. So no, I don't think just because we got Donkey Kong Bonanza that automatically says no, we're not getting the 3D Mario for a while. That doesn't make sense on one of Nintendo's brand new hardware. Like, they're gonna want to throw Mario on this thing sooner or later. But does it happen this year? It's hard to say. This October will be 9 years since Super Mario Odyssey, which sounds absolutely absurd, but this game is going to be massive. Probably the biggest game on the console once it releases. Maybe not as big as Mario Kart World sales-wise, but as far as being critically acclaimed, it's probably going to be like Breath of the Wild levels, especially if they move forward with an open-world design that follows Bowser's Fury. But I'm suggesting that this is around a 50-50%. I think there's a good chance it could happen as a holiday title, but there's also a good chance that Nintendo could be Nintendo again and make us wait yet again until 2027 until we see or hear anything about this game. We're going to have to wait and see, but yeah, like I said, I think a 50% chance of it releasing this year sounds pretty good to me. Next up to something that I think is more likely, perhaps, is Luigi's Mansion 4. It will be 7 years since 3 in October, and it's definitely time. I feel like it's definitely time at least. 3 sold extremely well and bumped the series up to something that was smaller to something a lot bigger for Nintendo. 14.2 million units sold on the Switch, which is crazy. This will no doubt be a very big deal for Switch 2, especially when you look at Luigi's Mansion 3 and how good the graphics were and just how big of a game it was for that console. I think Nintendo wants to get next level games working right away at this game, so I think it's just about done by now. I don't know, this just feels super likely to me. I feel like this would be a perfect October game, something that might even get announced in the next couple of weeks at the Nintendo Direct. I'm feeling this one for some reason. I don't know why. I'm feeling this one more than 3D Mario. I'm giving it about an 80% chance of happening when you just look at how long it's been and what time we're in, and the fact that I just feel like it's time for Luigi's Mansion. We had Dark Moon get its remaster last year, which was a very lazy put-together remaster. It felt like it was literally just put out just for them to have a little bit more time to work on Luigi's Mansion 4. So yeah, I think this is the year. I think we'll be seeing it this October. Next up, we got to go one more Mario game, because why not? Mario Maker 3, also in that same boat as Luigi's Mansion 4, where it's been 7 years this summer since Mario Maker 2, and Mario Maker 2 wasn't a huge, like, gigantic game for Nintendo. It was big, don't get me wrong, at 8.4 million, but it's definitely a franchise that's still growing, very similarly to Luigi's Mansion, and I feel like this third game could have a Luigi's Mansion 3 effect where it just blows up. But they'd have to do a lot. I mean, they'd have to have tons of more game styles this time around instead of just one. They'd also maybe even have to do like a Mario Maker 3D, which would be so freaking cool. But the problem with this game is it kind of combats against what's going on this year. When you look at the fact that Mario Wonder is getting a Switch 2 edition this year, and on top of that, we know that there's a 3D Mario coming soon, at least I hope so, it kind of conflicts with this. So in a perfect world, I think, you know, having Mario Wonder Switch 2 edition and a 3D Mario game released this year, and then next year having Mario Maker 3 or Mario Maker 3D would make a lot of sense, especially if this next Mario game is going to be open world. Then you can have more of a sandbox style 3D Mario game with Mario Maker, where people can make their own 3D sandbox style levels, placing stars in the levels that you can go get. Something like that would bring fans back to that classic 3D Mario, so you can have a little bit of best of both worlds, and having two pretty much big Mario titles on the Switch 2 out the gate pretty early, I think would be awesome. But as far as this year, I'm around a 40 to 45% chance that it could happen. They could repeat 2019 and just do a Luigi's Mansion 4 and a Mario Maker 3 like they did back in 2019. So who knows? I'm still saying around a 40 to 45% chance. I don't know if it's the time for Mario Maker quite yet. But something else maybe kind of pointing towards Mario Maker 3 being a potential game that happens this year is the Mario Galaxy movie. I've seen some people coin the idea of a Mario Galaxy 3. I don't think that's the case. I mean, Galaxy 2 was already made over leftover ideas, and the fact that it's been 9 years, I don't think they've been working on a Galaxy 3 this whole time, unless it's a super ambitious, like, open world Galaxy game or something. So yeah, I think the next best thing would be a game style in Mario Maker, whether it be a 2D game style, which definitely would work. There's a lot of 2D framed levels in Galaxy 1 and 2, or is it going to be kind of a 3D Mario Maker style? Who knows? But either way, I think, you know, there's a good case to be made for Galaxy having some type of appearance in a game world to reference the movie coming out early this year. However, I'm still not buying it. Next up, we have the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake. I am so confident in this game for some reason, and I think it's just because of everything that's been coming out. Multiple sources, even unlikely sources that never leak anything, have been talking about this game for years now, and especially really ramping up towards the end of last year, beginning of this year. Nintendo themselves working with LEGO, having the Great Deku Tree LEGO set, and then eventually a giant Ganon set that looks like it's coming soon later this year, not to mention the Zelda movie early next year. I mean, we could go on and on and on about how many little references and teases it seems like Nintendo is doing with the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and for the 40th anniversary, they had to do something big, and we know it's not time for the next mainline Zelda game. It's only been not even 3 years yet, so I am very confident in this one. This just feels like it's going to happen, and trust me, even though this is going to be a remake, this is going to be massive for Nintendo. This isn't just a remake of any game. This is a remake of potentially the biggest and greatest video game for a lot of people of all time. This is the Zelda game, the video game for a lot of people. So even though this is a remake, it's going to sell like hotcakes, man. Especially if they put in a lot of effort. If this is a full from the ground up remake that changes assets, adds some new things to the battling and stuff, and some more things to Hyrule Field, and just some good quality of life changes, and makes it feel like it's just the best version it could possibly be, there is no doubt in my mind this is going to be one of the greatest things Nintendo's ever released. I'm going high on this one. I feel confident. I mean, this is the game that I feel like is for sure happening this year. I'm going 95%. If I'm wrong, I'd be very shocked. I mean, especially if Nintendo just completely skipped this anniversary. I don't know what else could be big enough to be in the 40th anniversary for Zelda right now. So yeah, I'm putting all my cards on this. I'm saying 95% chance we will be seeing the Ocarina of Time remake released this year. Next up, we have Super Smash Bros. Now, on paper, it's been a very long time. I mean, this December will be 8 years since Ultimate. You look at a lot of these franchises, it's about time for so many of them. But yeah, 8 years since Ultimate, which is reaching 3D Mario levels of, oh my gosh. It would make sense, trust me, for it to release this year, but I don't feel it. I don't know. Something just doesn't feel right. And it might be because of Kirby Air Riders just recently coming out, but I don't think that's necessarily stopping Sakurai from having a Smash Brothers soon. Because could you imagine on a brand new Switch 2, Nintendo takes one of their biggest franchises and puts it to the back for Kirby Air Riders? I don't think so. I mean, this has got to be a game that comes out towards the front half, especially with DLC and stuff. If they're going to have lots of DLC characters and hype for years to follow, they got to get this thing out within the first 2 to 3 years, I would say. But I don't think 2026 is quite time yet. I could see it being maybe even early or middle of 2027, which would make a lot of sense to me, or even at the very latest holiday of 2027. I don't know. I just don't feel like it's time yet. In a year that's already packed, and it looks like it's going to be even more packed with some games that it's time for. I will say I am praying we don't get some type of stupid Smash Ultimate Switch 2 Edition game where they're like, oh, here's all the DLC and everything, and here's some more characters. A third fighter pass is coming. I would literally fall over in my chair. I want a new Smash Brothers game. I love all the characters and stuff, but I'm ready for a different approach with Smash Brothers. I think it's time. Yeah, so I'm saying the next Smash Brothers is not happening this year. I'm going to say it's around a 15% chance that it will happen. Now, this one might be strange, but hear me out. So there apparently is some type of mystery Monolith Soft game. We've been talking about this for a while, that they've been working on something. I don't think it's Xenoblade quite yet. I think it's going to be at least another year or two before we see this next Xenoblade game. But even then, Xenoblade's not too popular of a series right now where it's going to be considered a massive game. In fact, it's lower than Fire Emblem, with its highest in sales being Xenoblade 2, technically, if you don't count all the different versions of Xenoblade 1. But that was at 2.7 million, so it's not quite there yet in popularity. But I don't think that game is coming regardless this year. I think there's something else coming, though. Now, it could be the Zelda remake that they're working on. We know that they have been helping with the Zelda games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom already. So this could be something that they're working on, or maybe it's another Zelda spin-off as part of the 40th anniversary. Who knows? But I think whatever it is, and once again, I know this isn't really a game prediction, but more of a company prediction, I think Monolith Soft is going to be involved in something this year, about a 70% chance. I just don't know what it is. I do think it's probably going to be Zelda related, though, and it could be the remake, which gives the core Nintendo team more time to work on the next mainline Zelda game, as Monolith Soft is working primarily on the Zelda remake. That's what I think is going on, at least. Now, one last thing I want to talk about is there could be a mystery IP here. I don't think there's any mystery IP that could be considered a huge game for Nintendo this year, unless they're taking some IP and being very, very ambitious with it and giving it the development cycle of something like a Zelda or a Mario, which, let's face it, Nintendo normally doesn't do that. There could be something like another 3D Kirby, like the Forgotten Land. I don't think it's time yet. I don't even think it's time for a 2D Kirby yet. I think we're probably going to see some type of remake or some remaster of maybe the 3DS games, Planet Robobot and Triple Deluxe. I don't think we're seeing Kirby here, but it could be something very ambitious, like an ambitious Star Fox game, maybe F-Zero, maybe Kid Icarus brought back, or maybe a Wario adventure game, like a 2D or even a 3D game again, like Wario World. Those could be on the table, but I don't see them happening. It just doesn't seem likely right now. I would love to see a Star Fox game with the effort given of a 3D Mario or 3D Zelda game, but you know it's Nintendo, and they just won't do it, which just makes me so mad. Instead, they'll just, skimp out for another Star Fox 64 remaster filling game like Star Fox Zero. But I don't know. Maybe even the next Captain Toad, if they are working on a new one, could be pretty big if they market it as such. That could go along with the movie as well, but it's really just hard to say. But I'm going to finish it on this and say there is one IP that I think has a chance to happen here, and I think if it does, it will be one of the biggest games for Nintendo of the year, because it just always is, and that is a new sports game. Nintendo sports games are games that just sell like hotcakes, man. Do you remember when Switch Sports was announced, how excited people were? And it actually ended up selling 16.2 million units. Like, this was a huge deal because, of course, everyone loved Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort, so seeing something like this was a massive deal. And I think seeing something like this again after it's going to be around 4 years after Switch Sports in April, I think it might be time for another game. I can't see development taking too long. I just hope they actually fill the game with sports instead of making us wait almost 2 years for basketball to be added, which is just ridiculous. So I could see this being some type of like Switch Sports Resort or something, especially earlier on in the Switch 2. There really hasn't been any successful new IP ideas from Nintendo. Like, no one likes Drag and Drive, and also Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour was just a flop. Shoot, even Ring Fit on the Switch sold like crazy. It wasn't a sports game, it was more a workout game, and it looked like a gimmicky little workout game, but I actually tried it and it's actually a lot of fun, and it does get you sweating and stuff, and it gives you a workout. But that game went on to sell a whopping 15.3 million units. Like, this went down as a huge title in 2019, which is very interesting. So yeah, we're going to be approaching 7 years this October, so it could be either a sports game on Switch 2 or some type of workout game on Switch 2, but I feel like Nintendo definitely should have something planned and something in the works for next year. I almost feel like they have to, because, you know, it's earlier on in the Switch 2, there's a fan base for these type of games, and I feel like Nintendo needs to cater to them. But I could also see this game squeezing into the beginning of next year and not quite making this year's schedule, but I don't know, man. The more I think about it, the more likely it sounds. I'm gonna go around a 75% chance we could see something this year in this genre. So after unpacking everything and looking at what the possible 3 biggest games for Nintendo this year could be, I've come down to Splatoon Raiders, Zelda Ocarina of Time Remake, and Luigi's Mansion 4. I think the Ocarina of Time Remake is going to be absolutely massive for Nintendo this year. That's if and only if Nintendo actually puts in full effort into this remake, which I think they will. I don't think there's any reason to doubt the Zelda team and Nintendo. I mean, they time and time again surprised us and showed us that they can, you know, absolutely perform at high levels. But I think this is going to be the game of the year for so many people, followed by Luigi's Mansion 4, which I think is going to be an absolutely huge deal. I think it's going to also bring back the case for what's the best looking Nintendo game ever, because I feel like Metroid Prime 4 in certain areas definitely took it from Luigi's Mansion 3. I'm still on team Luigi's Mansion 3. That game is just beautiful, though. Its art style is perfect. So I think just enhancing that even more on Luigi's Mansion 4 and on the Switch 2, it's just going to look so good, it's going to run so well, and it's just going to be an awesome Luigi's Mansion experience. And then I think Splatoon Raiders is going to be the 3rd best of this year. Now, personally, I want to make a case for this game possibly even being one of the best. I think, at least review-wise, it has a chance to be one of the best reviewed games for Nintendo this year. I just have full confidence in this thing. I don't know why. I just am so confident because just the idea of having a single-player Splatoon game has always just been exciting to me, and it always just, you know, just makes perfect sense. And I think this game is really going to surprise us. I think it's going to be the biggest sleeper pick for a lot of people. It's going to be the biggest shock out of all 3 of these games, and I really am I'm full support for this game. I'm hoping they don't let me down with the, you know, official reveal of it probably very soon. But yeah, come on, Nintendo. Come on, Splatoon team. Let Splatoon Raiders shine. Let it be the big game for us this year. But we'll know sooner or later what Nintendo's big plans are for this year. I feel like the first Direct of the year pretty much tells us what to expect. I mean, the middle Direct also gives us a couple of smaller games for the rest of the year, but pretty much this February Direct is the big one. It kind of reveals the whole plans for Nintendo, so I'm really scared. I don't really want to say I'm looking forward to it because I don't know. Nintendo Directs have been kind of iffy so far in the Switch 2 generation. I know there's only been 2 big ones, but both of them have kind of let me down in certain ways. So we're just going to have to wait and see what this upcoming Direct has in store for us. Hopefully there's a couple surprises along with everything that we already know. But what do you think the big games for Switch 2 are going to be this year? Only the big games. What are going to be the massive titles that you think Nintendo has in store for us? Let me know down below. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Nintendo and Switch 2 in general. And thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope you all have a blessed day. See you guys.